You know what time it is. Is that what you wanted, Drew?
Were we recording that?
Yeah, we're recording right now.
Oh, cool.
Hi.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Be Better Boys. I am Zach, your host, and I got my two guests here. Not guests, but sidekicks.
What up?
No,
Chris?
no, not going with that. I don't know. It's season 2, so I thought we were just trying something different.
Season 2, yeah. It's all about season 2.
So we've definitely upped the ante here a little bit more at the studio. Got some things figured out in terms of making a little bit better production for everyone. So I'm excited to see what we can do for you guys and see what we can explore this season.
We hired some more staff.
We hired some more staff. Yeah.
Janice, give me a beer.
So this season, though, I know one thing we wanted to get into is a whole. Last season, we kind of really went into truth a lot,
and this season, we're going to take a whole new
perspective.
Yep.
Segue. So this whole season, we want to be about perspective, and we were thinking a lot about a good way to bring it across to make a way of understanding what perspective and how to look at it to make sure it's, right for you and right for everyone around you. And a good story for me with that was actually inspired by Peterson, is the story of the spirit of Cain. You ever heard of this, Chris?
I've heard the story.
Okay, so how familiar are you with the story?
Just the basics, how he betrayed his brother and killed him.
So the reason I bring up Peterson, and I want to bring this up here, is... Oh, wrong one.
So why is this called the spirit of Cain and not the Cain and Abel story? Why?
Well, the spirit of Cain is it's the way Peterson describes it, and what it is he thinks there's this spirit, this influence in the world, and it kind of all starts with Cain and Abel, and it really starts with Cain. And
so is that to say, like, the spirit of Cain lives in all of us?
Yes. Aspects of it. It's just human sin.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a fallen world. The reason why it's so important, and we're going to listen to Jordan Peterson's video here and show a clip of it, but the reason why it's so important is Cain and Abel were the first offsprings of the first children of Adam and Eve. So essentially, Adam and Eve were created with God. Cain and Abel were actually the first people born to earth.
Right.
So it's and then they're born outside of Eden, so they have this original sin, some people call it, with them because of the fall from God's grace. Not all the way. We have redemption through, actually, Genesis 1:3, I think it is, or Genesis 3. God promises through her womb will be a savior, and he'll crush the head of the snake while you strike at his heel. So with that, though, the reason why the spirit of Cain is so important is because God first comes out and he says, hey, he sees Abel and he sees Cain. They both are working and they're both doing sacrifices for the Lord. God looks at Abel and goes, hey, I'm looking at favor with your work. You're doing a good job. Okay. His approach was, he had a good attitude. His perspective was a good attitude. Okay. Then you go to Cain and God did not look at favor with him. So God, instead of just letting him get away with it, God kind of never tells you what you want to hear.
Right.
He goes, you are getting jealous of your brother because you are not trying as hard. It's your own doing, okay? Yep. And instead of bettering yourself, you're allowing yourself to get more angry, and it's taking away with you. You cannot let that happen, okay? So let's dive into the video real quick and kind of just
Can you actually put words to the kind of dragon that you're fighting?
This isn't...
is it common?
This is bits of knowledge, by the way. Shout out to them.
Can you elaborate what the spirit of Cain is?
So, after Adam and Eve are thrown out of paradise, when they become self-conscious, they're destined to work. And the reason for that, as far as I can tell, is that to become self-conscious is to become aware of the future. It's to become aware of death. That certainly happens in the Adam and Eve story. To have the scales fall from your eyes. And then the consequence of that is that you now have to labor to prevent the catastrophes of the future. That's work. Work is sacrifice. Sacrifice of the present to the future. It's delay of gratification. It's maturity. It's sacrifice to something as well, and in the spirit of something. Okay, so now Adam and Eve have two children, Cain and Abel. So those are the first two people in history, because the Garden of Eden doesn't count. And they're the first two people who are born rather than created. So they're the first two people. And that's a hell of a story, because it's a story of fratricidal murder that degenerates into genocide, flood, and tyranny. So that's fun for the opening salvo of the story, let's say. And Abel and Cain both make sacrifices. And for some reason, Abel's sacrifices please God. It's not exactly clear why. And Cain's don't. Now, there's an implication in the text that it's because Cain's sacrifices are second rate. God says that Abel brings the finest to the sacrificial altar. He doesn't say that about Cain. So you could imagine that Cain is sacrificing away, but he's holding something in reserve. He's not all in. He's not bringing his best to the table. He's not offering his best to God. And so Abel thrives like mad. And everyone loves him. And he gets exactly what he needs and wants, exactly when he needs and wants it. He's favored of God. And Cain is bearing this terrible burden forward and working, and his sacrifices are rejected. So he gets resentful, really resentful, resentful enough to call God out and say something like, "This is quite the creation you've got going here. I'm breaking myself in half and nothing good's coming my way. What the hell's up with that?" And then there's Abel, the sun's shining on him every day. "How dare you?" It's like, okay, but this is God that Cain's talking to. And so God says what Cain least wants to hear, which is what God usually says to people. He says, "Look to your own devices. You're not making the sacrifices you should, and you know it." And then he says something even worse. He says, "Sin crouches at your door like a sexually aroused predatory animal, and you've invited it in to have its way with you." And so he basically says, you have allowed your resentment to preoccupy yourself, and now you're brooding upon it and generating something creative, new, and awful, possessed by the spirit of resentment. And that's why you're in the miserable state you're in. So then Cain leaves. His countenance falls, as you might expect. And Cain leaves, and he's so incensed by this, because God has said, look, your problems are of your own making. And not only that, you invited them in. And not only that, you engaged in this creatively. And not only that, you're blaming it on me. And not only that, that's making you jealous of Abel, who's your actual idol and goal. And Cain, instead of changing, kills Abel. Right? And then Cain's descendants are the first people who make weapons of war. And so that's, okay, you want to know what I think? That's the eternal story of mankind. And it's playing out right now.
So I know there's a lot to digest there, and we waited a minute to go through it all, but I think there's a lot in there, and it's really important to go through. One of my gifts, and I know I have such an ego, but one of my gifts I feel like is I get to read people really well. And I kind of get to see why they're doing what they're doing. And if they give me the opportunity to talk with them deep,
Yeah.
and I think I have a good way of explaining to them. Sometimes it's a hard truth. Not saying I'm perfect, and not saying I haven't got it wrong, but I do realize that there's a pattern people follow. And one pattern is they lie to themselves. And the reason that is kind of like the whole story with Cain and Abel. And it sticks out to me so much because you always see people lie to themselves of where they are first, of where they are currently because of what they did. They'll play a victimhood thing, you know? And this, not to go back in the last year and all their stuff, but like that's the whole reason with politics too, is like I said, I know we talk about victimhood a lot, but this is the core to everything right here if you want to understand people and their intentions.
So that was excuse me, the spirit of Cain, like at its fullest, is
Yes.
what you're saying?
Well, it's the most foundation example ever of understanding jealousy and selfishness,
Yeah, it's a
and
standard.
lying to yourself, you know. So Cain, he ends up, not giving it his all. And then he sees, God tells him, you're doing this to yourself because you're not trying it. So you're dragging your feet in life. Instead of being grateful for the opportunity, you're seeing everything as an obstacle instead. So you need to look at life and go, hey, how can I be better from this? How can I be? Honestly, God wants appreciation, but a life of viewing through we're so programmed to always look for the negative in life. It's built into us so much.
Well, now more than ever because of social media and standards and the way life has changed. It's
everywhere you look.
Yeah, it's going to hit you no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. But I do think understanding this story to its fullest, if you understand it in all its depths, you'll understand people, especially if you look at yourself and really start to dissect yourself a lot of why you do what you do. And so perspectives was the big thing you want to talk about. I think there's always three perspectives, okay? There's your perspective, there's their perspective, and then there's God's perspective. And God's perspective is the truth. That makes sense?
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because God ultimately, there is an and that's where God judges all, because he understands your intention. You know what I mean? If he understands you're going with innocence, but you're doing something wrong, as opposed to someone that's doing something, intentional to get away with it for a selfish reason, he's going to play it differently. But there is those times where someone does something that someone's not comfortable with and they're not aware of it, but they get mad at them instead of maybe just saying, hey, what's the truth behind this, Right. But there's people to do it. It gets far. It goes with your job. It goes with your relationships, with your marriage, your kids, everything. It's every aspect of your life when it comes to even, the way you recognize your patterns, how it's going to pick up, and then you'll just see, like that. You've seen that pattern with Cain. It kind of gets. It's something we've seen so many times before, where someone doesn't try enough, they get called out for it, and then it gets taken.
Yeah, someone is. Someone is. What is the phrase I'm looking for? Soaking the fruits of their labor, right? Because they put in the work, and then someone else complains because
they're reaping what they sow.
Yeah, or fruits of their labor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other person complains and says, "Oh, well, that's good for you," and they have this attitude, and it's like, well, you have the same life, you have the same amount of time as I do. What are you doing wrong? I guess.
Well, you and me were having this conversation a few weeks ago, and that was such an interesting conversation. That's why we wanted to jump back into with the podcast with this. And when we had this conversation, not to get deep with our conversations behind this, but that's all we ever do in this podcast as it is. But when we had this and I was explaining it to you, you said, but wouldn't it have changed though if God did make it easier for Cain? Like, how would it change the world though if God actually cut him some slack and did, why do you think God didn't cut him slack? I'll ask you guys.
To teach him a lesson.
Yeah, I agree, to teach him a lesson.
What would the lesson be?
To stop resenting others and make the sacrifice you're supposed to.
Or just make use of what you do have, and it could potentially turn into more instead of begging God for it, I guess. What does Cain think about his brother? What do you think Cain does? It's jealousy. It's envy.
But do you think God makes it easier for Abel?
No.
So that's the biggest thing. It's
a level playing field.
So remember that, though. This is a big thing for people. Abel was in the same world that Cain was.
Right.
So why would God change the rules when he just has it just as hard?
Exactly.
But the difference is Abel understood it, though, in the sense that he appreciated it. He put towards his fullness because he understood that you feel full, when you restore order to chaos. Going back to Peterson again, but that's true. What do you think?
Trying to piece what the last thing you said, restore order to chaos. I don't know, how does that really apply in this situation, though?
Because life is nothing but chaos.
That's true, but it's not chaos if you have yourself organized and you're doing everything you think is correctly. It's not chaos.
But then you'll see the patterns of what you sow, You see the fruits of your labor, like you said before.
Yeah, but I wouldn't call that chaos. That's not it's still orderly.
If you breed chaos, you'll end up with chaos.
Okay, but there was nothing until, Cain retaliated against his brother and, what am I thinking of? What did he do to, resented God?
Yeah.
Yeah, so until that happened, there was still order. He was still doing everything orderly, which is
No, he wasn't.
How?
Because he wasn't doing it to its fullest. So, here, I can actually pull it up here. Let me see. Which one is it now? I think it's number 3. Yeah. So I pulled up the verses here.
That's Cain watching all of us in the left corner.
Oh, yeah. All right. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel also brought an offering, but fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked a favor upon Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. So even before it dealt with Abel, he was already just pissed off at what he had to do with the world, because he felt like...
So he just wanted to do the bare minimum and get by instead of actually doing it for God like he should have. His heart wasn't in it, is what...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his attitude, his perspective about everything. Mm-hmm. God wants a perspective from you, and that's people that have that, hey, I'm not sure, but I'm open, and he'll reach out to you with answers if you actually give him a chance to see and give it time. Where if you pray and then you give it time, just reflect for a moment, how much of a difference does it make, instead of just trying to think the answers. Give it a second for God to show you truth. And
could you also add the note that maybe Cain wasn't listening to God, not like following direct orders, I'm just saying like listening.
I would say from the sounds of it, it sounds like Cain was kind of entitled.
Absolutely. So, and there's a reason for that. Cain was the firstborn. So Cain being the firstborn, it is very, very... You see it time and time again with Abraham, and then you had Ishmael. So Ishmael should have been with the firstborn, even though it was the slave wife from Hagar.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a sense of entitlement because he's the firstborn.
So Cain is Hagar's son? He's the descendant from that? Right?
No,
Cain's from Eden.
Cain is right after Adam and Eve.
He was the firstborn.
He's the firstborn person in the world. Then there was Abel.
Abel is the result of Hagar and
Adam and Eve.
What is that? How does that come into
That goes later in the Bible.
Oh.
It starts with Adam, Eve, and then
He was
Cain and
making a
Abel.
correlation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying because the firstborn and the entitlement. And that's a thing that people tell themselves. This is like another lie. It's the same thing that Cain was doing. Is he lies to himself about why he is where he is because he felt like he's owed something more than he actually is. Because why?
Yep.
Because he still is in the same world as Abel. And that people keep forgetting that. Yep. All they see is how they feel about stuff, and that's what I'm talking about. That's your perspective.
Right.
Okay? But you have to see their perspective, and they're still living that same world as you.
Yep.
And it's going to change your perspective. If you change your life if people actually start seeing it this and break it down and go, why are people acting the way they are? When you understand that people lie to themselves, they feel like they're entitled and they can't look past their emotions. He heard God. God told him right off the bat, right here, if you look right here. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? This is why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." So God tells him what he needs to do before he kills Abel. So even with that, but that's
what I mean. He's listening, but he's not truly listening
with his heart.
Yeah.
His perspective, his feeling, his attachment
like
to it.
It's like in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, it's more about how I feel. I'm more angry right now.
I would even say he's questioning his own faith.
Absolutely. He doesn't have faith in God.
Right.
And that's every single story in the Bible has the same answer, is have faith in God.
Yep.
Don't have faith in what you feel. Have faith in God. time and time again. But it's just, this is the first foundation of the Bible, the first mankind, the first interaction, especially with his own brother.
Yep.
Like, it just shows you, though. But if you understand this to its fullest, like, it's insane how much you would understand people around you. Does that make
I
sense?
wish society would understand that and take a step back and see we're all on a level playing field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you look around now, you just see all the division nonstop. It's, oh, he has an advantage over me because he's a man. You know, it's stuff like that.
But there's importances and differences between men and women, though.
Right.
So a man should be better at some things than a woman, and then a woman should be better at man than some. Like, it's not a bad
Right.
thing. Doesn't mean one's less than the other. It's just one. It's just a different category of gift.
It's your role in life.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying that, a woman can't do the things that a man can do, but like to say that as a general consensus that one is more than the other, it's like, that's not how that works.
Right.
You're an exception for sure, and you could say the same thing about men, but like you can't just change what is.
I agree.
You can't force your own perspective on everyone else's.
I agree. I think that this is such a powerful lesson, though, for people. I really mean that. Like, if people see this, you'll see the difference between... And you don't take it and you use it against someone either, though.
Right.
You take it and...
Because that defeats the purpose.
Yeah, because you know better than them. You're seeing it outside of it now because you're outside of your emotions.
Right.
Then you can have an impact, and that's what I try to do, And I don't know. I'm just excited for this episode. Go ahead.
So Peterson, the last thing he said was it's the fundamental story of mankind, right?
Yeah.
That was the last part. So do you think we've answered that with our own little bits, or...
What, that aspect of Peterson? Mm-hmm. What, do you guys have any questions about it? Do you guys think about anything that we haven't thought about it?
I was just comparing a bunch of IRL stuff, like with me in this story. That's why I've been kind of quiet. I'm kind of absorbing all this. I'm like, whoa, it's kind of waking me up a little more.
What do you mean IRL? Like,
I'd rather not talk about it on here.
like
but
your
it's
own
like,
personal...
yeah, my own
okay.
personal battles,
Yeah.
I've definitely, I'll say this. I've definitely awoken and realized how ignorant I was in certain points recently, and I've definitely awoken, and I'm definitely trusting my faith in God. I wasn't bought in, kind of like Cain. I wasn't bought in all the way, and now I feel like I'm truly bought in now. So.
Yeah. Do you think that you still have room to grow?
Absolutely.
I think that, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that there's a reason when I was trying to get him to start to read the Bible like years ago, and he's like, I went to Catholic school. I already know it all. And I said, do you think that you're the same person you were now 10 years, or do you think in high school, you think you're a different person than you are from high school? I said, yeah. Think your perspective's changed? Yes. Have you had different things thrown at you now? Yes. A lot more challenges, a lot more accomplishments, a lot more thoughts to go through. You reread that Bible and you read that story again, but now you're a different person. You're not the same person.
Right.
And you've grown. And you may be even failure is a form of growing, though.
Absolutely.
There's something
Failure is
beautiful.
what builds you.
Absolutely. Molds you, shapes you. It really does. And
the first lesson in that is to accept failure.
Absolutely.
That's the first step. You can't get past anything if you don't accept it. Because then you were going to live out the spirit of...
Accept the possibility, not accept it.
Yeah, but you also need to accept failure as it happens in real time.
After it happens, yes.
Right. Learn to grow from it. Don't resent it.
Well, you could
And
also
make
say...
yourself worse,
You could also say as it happens too, because that changes your perspective on how you deal with the situation at hand. Because if it involves other people, you have an... I'm sorry.
People.
You have an obligation to not, how you handle it is how you're going to handle every other failure you encounter. So you need to figure it out now instead of wait until over and over and over again until it becomes until it consumes you, and then you can accept the foreshadowing of failure.
The process of getting past that, not seeing it as failure, seeing it as an opportunity to grow from. Don't see it as an obstacle, see it as an opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I agree
take
with
that
you.
opportunity.
But what I'm saying is you need to learn how to deal with it as it happens instead of after the fact, and then get prepared for next time. But
sometimes things happen where you're not expecting them, Drew.
yeah.
Like there's people in your life that could pass away in a car crash or something crazy, and you don't know. Like I'm not saying that's failure, but like there's aspects of life where
Life is unpredictable. It always will be.
well, yeah, there's chaos.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always.
There's that chaos.
That's I'm
But you're right.
I'm not taking the credit for that's all Peterson.
Right.
Peterson's whole first thing was just you find order, you find meaning and purpose by the world is always going into decay and chaos. It's constantly going into chaos. So like your house will never get cleaner. Your health will always get worse. You know, your hair will get worse. You got to cut your grass. Dishes never. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
The reason the way we find meaning in life is restoring order to that, and it gives us that purpose. What's one of the most difficult things you've ever done in your life that you feel like you've accomplished and you were surprised and it like made you feel a sense of feeling good?
Drew, take it away. I gotta.
You don't got anything? You have nothing?
No, I have multiple things, but I want to think of a good one.
Okay. Drew?
Obviously, you know my one answer. I don't know if we're gonna dive into that right now, though.
Just give me the premise of it.
Just taking your life back, I guess.
Okay. So you feel like you've accomplished that?
Being able to set aside comfort for the better tomorrow.
Okay. Sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
So you think you've but I'm saying, is there an event in your life that you've done, like a promotion or good soccer game?
Say that. What was the question again?
Is there ever a moment in your life, an event that you felt accomplished and proud of yourself?
For like getting through something?
You just felt like you felt good about doing something.
Okay, yeah, Saturday I beat my 5K time.
Perfect. That's perfect. That's more than fine. Why did it mean so much to you?
Because I worked for it.
Yeah. How much did you look at the time on your watch when you were running?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
How much did it motivate you the first time?
Good, because I was able to go at least halfway without looking and, not worrying about where I'm, how much more I have left, and just kind of pushing through it.
Yeah. And what about the second time?
The second time I was a little fatigued, and I'm like, okay, time to kick it into high gear and finish.
Yeah. How much did you look at the times after you finished? How much did you look at your results? Did you keep looking back at it?
Like my stats, you
Yeah.
mean? I didn't really look at it at all, because I just looked at I achieved my goal. I didn't really care about anything else.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
So I guess the moral of that story is don't look back. Just keep.
Sometimes if you accomplish something, it's okay to look back for a moment
Well, to
to
figure out
reflect.
how you did it.
Not even how you did it, just to appreciate what you have because what you had to work for. So it's a moment to look back. Like, let's take a moment, breathe, and just look back. It's like at the end of the movie where the guy just stares out, and just like. And then it cuts scene. But that's what I'm talking about. Like that moment, just to it's okay to look back, and it's okay to look back a little bit to grow. It's okay to look back to learn. It's okay to look back to reflect for appreciation and growth. But it's not okay to look back and feel sorry for yourself.
Yep.
Well, I just thought of mine. So I feel accomplished now because I feel like I've gotten back my discipline, and I've learned I have to make sacrifices to better not only my mental health but my physical health. And back in 2021, when the COVID era happened, that's when I had my initial injury and stuff. I gained a lot of weight. I was addicted to a few things, but coming full circle now, how far I progressed, even to now, how strict I'm being with myself, I feel like that's a very great accomplishment because to be honest with you, I shouldn't even be here right now. So,
Hey, it's all about being a be better boy.
damn right.
Yeah. No, honestly though, like looking at stuff though and reflecting on it, it's good, but it's also it can be a sticky trap where you got to be careful because then you kind of get that whole feeling sorry for yourself kind of thing instead of going, let's ignore that. I'm past that now.
Exactly.
It's not holding me down. It's that weight you're shedding.
I used to let that affect me a lot, feeling sorry for myself. Then I get stuck in the cycle again. And I've learned now to just get that crap out of here, focus on the mission at hand, you know.
Well, I always bring up the metaphor of shedding. Like literally, if you want to grow, you have to shed, and it's literally dead weight. And it's dead weight that is sticking, and it's uncomfortable. You have to scratch it off. You have to but after you do it, you're gonna grow a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit better. You know.
Can we think of a new word to describe that for season 2?
What?
Shedding. What would be a season 2?
Metamorphosis.
That's
Yeah.
a big word.
Come out of your cocoon and just be a better.
Sure. Yeah. But I like shedding because the poeticness of the dead skin, like the fact that you're becoming bigger, stronger, and you're getting a whole new coat over you, and then it's dead weight, literally stuck to you.
How about upgrade?
Okay, Jarvis. Tuesday.
Mine's a little more morbid, but it's like destroying the old you, basically,
Yeah.
and forming something new, building yourself back up from, like you said, like the ruins and stuff.
Let's graves into gardens. God, literally, Jesus died, and through death, he brought life. He takes what destroys us, and if you use it right, you can make it stronger. And that's through Christ. That's a truth. You see what I'm saying, though?
Yes.
There's a truth to that, and it's beautiful in a sense. The fact that even so, like I have issues with. I feel good at home. I feel confident at home, but at work, I'm just not the guy I want to be. Very quiet, and I'm a little timid, mousy. You know, I'm not sure of myself. It's also because we all have one goal at work, and comparison, and especially in a sales job, you know, so I can get to you in a sense. So I'm trying to get.
It's also impression too. Everyone wants to make a good impression at their job because theoretically you would want to stay there if it's a good job, and you want to build seniority and this and that. So
Absolutely.
impression,
Right.
yeah.
So the pressure with it gets to me way more than I should. It's also because I think the way I do.
Right.
I like to think a little bit deeper about people, so I'm trying to live a little bit more on the surface. And what was I getting at before that, though? The impression at work. Oh, this is great content, guys. What were you saying before that, though? I'm sorry. I'll get to it in 1 second.
I'm gonna be honest. I was very focused on what you were saying, so I forgot.
I'm trying to take my weaknesses. So, graves in the gardens. So, all the things I'm overthinking about, everyone knows I'm an overthinker. So now I'm making jokes up, like about at my own expense, but not like I don't already think about myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm trying to use it in a way that's positive in a sense. Like, I know I'm being ridiculous, so I'm going to let everyone else know I'm being ridiculous and make everyone amusement out of that. Like, take it and use it to my benefit, you know?
But you're trying to enlighten people while you do that too, right? You know,
Well, that's the
make
other thing
others
is-
happy and stuff in a positive manner.
I'm a deep guy, and I feel like I like to think of the deep all the time, and it's really hard to kind of get back on the surface with people where you don't have to, like, why'd you do that? Couldn't you be better? Think about this. Like, think about, like, I do that a lot, and I don't want to be that guy all the time, but it's kind of like, it's a gift and a curse. It really is. Because I feel like I help people out with it if they give me their full honesty and their full story and stuff. Like, I'm really good at, like, no, this is why you feel this way, and this is what's helping, and all these factors. Like,
Right.
I'm really good at doing that with people, but I want to just relax my brain. Like, my brain never shuts off, kind of thing. So it's kind of annoying.
Moving 100 miles an hour, huh?
Oh, always. So, but I love it, and I also hate it. But that's why I wanted the podcast, because I feel like I can help people out if they listen, and I think it's a great episode. I like the concept of it.
Well, I just wanted to add what you were talking about is an adjective that, and I brought this up to you the other day, is personable. Personable? Yeah. So everyone, at least they should want to be some degree of personable, so that way you can...
Personable.
personable?
Go ahead.
Perception. So you would want to you would want to relate to anyone that you come across, just because why would you not, you know? And I think some people are more gifted at that than others. So
You have to separate your emotion from what you think about them, though. That's the thing.
well, yeah, but you could also you could just read somebody and know, and like you can get along with essentially anybody in any given situation. And I think that's something everyone would want to apply at their job, but it's easier said than done.
I think everyone wants to do that, but they also want to be authentic, which is the fine line. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to chameleon a little bit, but they want to stand out enough to.
So yeah, you would read the read
That's,
the room. And you're
that's a
like,
good topic for next week.
what's that?
Like how?
Don't let them know our plans.
Oh, I'm just saying that's a good idea. Like I like that. That's a good one. Like, and I don't even know the answer yet. That'd be a good thought process for me next week. Is like how to know when to. Why do people want to be adaptable and chameleon-like in the sense of the personality, but enough to they change to a different shade? You know, I guess you could say.
Or a different perspective.
I would say that's like not even being authentic, though. Like you're not being yourself in a way.
Everyone, there's
It's
a
good.
formula
It's
for
like you're
success,
trying to
though,
please other
but everyone wants to
people.
put their own spin on it. I feel like, you know.
Yeah.
It's like that's a fine line because you have to go with the social norms. I don't know. What do you guys think in the comments?
Chat, let us know. Also, let us know what you guys think of our new decoration, our new decor.
It's very demure, that decor.
Yeah, he gave that to us himself.
How much more you guys want? I'm not trying to wrap us up, but I want to make some announcements here at the end.
Go for it.
Did we run that by the crew?
HR?
Where's
Yeah.
Janice? Where's my beer?
What are we doing here?
I don't know. You have some announcements.
Well, I just had some things for the people.
Go
Yep.
for it. Shoot him.
What people?
The people out there.
You
Listen.
hear that? People.
We were wondering about changing some other stuff up too. Me and Drew been talking a lot about that too. And we want to do different formats where we think we could highlight our strengths the most. So obviously we like doing the podcast. I like doing podcasts with guests that are very open and are quick on their feet. And with that though, it's hard to get guests here a lot as much as we want to do that. And especially like, we can get a lot of people here, but I want to get good guests, you know. And with that though, we were thinking about doing other type of content, you know, with YouTube. Are you okay with me making it? So I'm not sure what we're doing, but I was going to throw it out there and see if people had any ideas what they'd like to see.
Okay.
So one of them was YouTube videos,
Shorts.
where it's like one a month, and we take an aspect of philosophy. And I'm thinking of modern day parables. Jesus spoke in parables for a reason. It's a way for us. It sparks the spirit in our core that resonates with us emotionally because it's geared towards truth. It's makes us feel bigger than who we are because it is built in to be bigger than who we are. So I like to talk about movies. I like talking about philosophy, and I like to help people out. And I'd love to maybe do something like that, like once a month. And it wouldn't be like we just talk about one movie. It'd be 10 different movies that people are really like well known or something like that, and we mix together a character and just talk about how that character highlights that one trait that we're trying to highlight. So that's something I was thinking of. Drew was thinking about doing some skits for some comedy, and then we're talking about doing a movie in 2028. We're working with Sony.
Be Better Boys TV.
Okay. Anyway, you guys have anything you want to add?
Always be better. Even if you think,
Always be better.
Always.
even if you think you're better enough, you could always be better.
Make the sacrifices, work hard, and never give up. Never give up on yourself. You can always be better.
Amen. All right, boys, you guys good to go? Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell your mom. Tell her to watch us.
Take
Be
a doll.
better boys.
Be
It's in a basement.
Better boys. It's in the podcast. All right. We'll see you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Love you, boys.